Over the years, Minecraft has changed a lot, whether that be a new combat system, new structures, new bosses, or even multiple terrain overhauls. So when I replayed some of the old versions last year, I was surprised to see just how different the game used to be. But all of those versions were full releases. Before then came beta, which is where I started playing. But if we go even further back in time, we reach Minecraft Alpha. This is where the game started becoming coherent. Or is it? To find out, I had to experience this version to its full extent. So I made it my goal to collect every item that was available in this version, which turned out to be much more difficult than I was expecting. And the first thing I noticed about this version is how incredibly broken it is. The sound is both on and off at the same time. How does that even work? Well, it doesn't change anything as it turns out, because this version has no sound for some reason, which makes exploring caves extremely terrifying since you can't hear mobs. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start on day 1, and wow, this is saturated. Also, this is what going into third person looks like. Something else you might notice is that there's no hunger bar. Instead, food just fills up your health directly. So to balance it, food is unstackable and you can sprint. Yep, this is the fastest we can move in this version. Despite all of these changes, the general progression still works the same. So as always, I started by chopping down a tree and making a wooden pickaxe, only to instantly upgrade to stone tools. The problem with tools in this version is that they have no durability at all. An iron pickaxe in this version might even have less durability than a stone pickaxe in modern Minecraft, which means that it's generally better to keep a lot of low tier pickaxes while strip mining, even if it's a bit slower. After making a few tools, I instantly gathered all the resources I needed for a starter base. I didn't finish it right away, but I made at least enough progress to place these 3 double chests. I would use these to store every item in this version. 1 double chest for blocks, 2 for items. This was gonna be the main way for me to see my progress, and then I just waited. You see, beds weren't the thing yet in this version, so you would just have to wait out the nighttime. I started day 2 by just exploring the area, which led to me finding some flowers, red mushrooms, and iron ore. There wasn't really much else to find. Clay as well as sugarcane didn't exist yet, and the entire world was the same biome. I made some signs for the item chests and put some of my stuff in, which made me realize just how far we already got. Most of the items we were missing were made from ores, so I finally headed underground. I found a bunch of iron and even some redstone while mining the initial strip. Now having redstone sounds nice, except it didn't really do anything back then. You could make some logic gates and open iron doors, I guess, but there were no pistons or dispensers or anything that could interact with the world. One thing that was very different about mining back then was the lighting. The brightness was all the way down with no way to change it, which meant that exploring caves was extremely terrifying. There could be a skeleton around every corner, which can shoot arrows extremely quickly in this version. Although you can't really say that they're shooting the arrows since they're not even holding bows. There were a few moments where I thought I was gonna die, but luckily I had my very overpowered leather armor. See, armor worked very differently back then. Every set had a very high armor value, which would decrease as the armor became more and more damaged. During this brief mining session, I managed to find some gold and even my first diamonds. I used 3 of them for a diamond pickaxe, while adding the last one to the progress chest, which I ended up making a lot of progress on. It seemed like I was gonna finish the block collection soon, but I was still missing some rare blocks like a diamond block and mossy cobblestone, which is only obtainable in dungeons in this version. I focused on getting diamonds first, which meant that it was time for a long strip mining session. And as it turns out, diamonds were extremely common back then. Even though I was mining most of the blocks with stone pickaxes, it took me less than 2 hours to get a total of 44 diamonds. And this is without fortune, which didn't exist back then. I also got the rest of the gold I needed and even a block of obsidian. So after this incredibly successful mining session, we were almost done. I got a few more mob drops that I still needed, explored the area for 2 brown mushrooms, 1 of them for the block collection and 1 of them to make mushroom stew, until there were only a few items left. Now this is where things became problematic. 3 of the items we needed were only found in dungeons. The first one is mossy cobblestone, a pretty much guaranteed find. The second item was a saddle, which is also fairly common. The real problem is the golden apple. This is by far the rarest item in this version of the game, with only a 0.8% chance per dungeon chest. So I explored the area above ground for cave entrances. It took around 2 days in total, but I finally managed to find one that led to a dungeon. A zombie spawner, which almost ended my life. The first chest had a saddle inside of it, which was a very good start. And then I opened the second chest, and there it was. In my first dungeon, I managed to find the rarest item in the entire game. I quickly grabbed a block of mossy cobblestone and made my way back home. Except there was one more problem. This version had no compass and also no debug screen. So I had to find my way home by memory. And on top of that, it was turning nighttime. I could have waited the night out, but I did that too many times to count already. Every night I was just waiting until it was safe to go out again. But not this time. I decided to risk it all and went back home right then. The world was difficult to navigate without being able to see properly. I wasn't even sure if I was going in the right direction. I had a few encounters with mobs, but I was prepared with a bow and lots of food to keep up my health. I thought I was lost, until I saw a light in the distance. I managed to find my way back home with these incredibly rare items, which I quickly added to the collection chests. And then there were only 2 items left. Seeds and wheat. These items were simple enough to obtain. Just hold the ground to get seeds and wait for them to grow. In the meantime, I worked a bit more on the base. I added a roof and windows until I was finally happy with it, even though it's nothing compared to what we can do nowadays. A bit later, the wheat finished growing, and with that I could finally say that I managed to collect every item in Minecraft Alpha version 1.0.4. While it was interesting to see the roots of this game, it was a broken and unbalanced mess that was missing most of the quality of life features that we take for granted. But to be honest, that's what I expected. After all, you don't see a lot of people saying that Alpha was the best version of the game. When people say that they prefer playing older versions, most likely they're referring to beta version 1.7. This was the last version before hunger and sprinting, but also the last update to feature the old terrain generation, which made it significantly different from beta 1.8. So in the next episode, we are going to continue this playthrough by collecting every item in beta version 1.7. I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye.